Welcome to Empowered to Grow, the podcast. I am your host, Hanan Al-Basha. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Empowered to Grow in Business, the live edition of our podcast. I'm super excited today because I have a guest, and I have a very interesting topic. And this topic came up in a panel discussion that he was with me on in AIM, Annual Investment Meeting Conference, a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about SMEs and their sustainability and profitability and the challenges they're facing. And thus the topic came up. So today I have Sherif Elmasry, who is a tech entrepreneur. He's an advisor, he's a mentor, and he is a very dear friend of mine. And I have been bugging him for a few months to come on the podcast with me, but I finally found a topic he can't say no to. So Sherif, hi.
Hi, Dr. Hanan. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, all is good. So I was just saying that I bugged you long enough and got you a topic that could be exciting enough for you to make an appearance on Empowered to Grow podcast.
Absolutely. I wouldn't say no to that. And I wouldn't say no to having a podcast with you as well.
Thank you. Sherif, tell our audience a little bit about you. So give us your background.
Sure. So basically, I'm vice chairman at Magber. We are a product innovation agency leading in MENA. We're present in the UK, in KSA, and the UAE, as well as Egypt. I'm also the CEO and founder for Maverica. We are a service matching platform operating in the same exact geography as well, same markets. My background, I have 21 years of experience in tech and business development and consulting. So I've taken the multiple sides of the tech side. So I've done it from an operational side, I've done it from a management consulting side, and I've done it from a business development side. I've gone through different industries as well. So I've done oil and gas, I've done FMCGs, BPOs, telecom, technology, consulting, you name it. So
the whole 9 yards. We bring you the whole 9 yards today, people.
The whole 9 yards.
Sherif, I was just saying that, the topic of SMEs, and again, for anyone who's listening for the first time, yes, I do like to talk a lot about SMEs because statistically, SMEs are composed 90 to 99% of worldwide economies. And that is a big number in terms of numbers. I'm not saying necessarily in terms of their revenues and their contribution to the GDP, but we're hoping that they will get bigger numbers in terms of their contribution. And yet, 70 to 80% are not going to make it past the 10-year mark. And I think that's why it's very, very important to talk about not just the challenges that SMEs face, but more importantly, how we can support them into looking at their strategies and their business models and their growth models to be able to increase the opportunities for their sustainability and profitability as well. And when we were discussing that, hybrid SMEs came up. And I know that you brought it up because you're also passionate about this topic. Let's start with defining what's a hybrid SME.
Thank you, Dr. Hanan, for the intro. And I think it's a very important topic, as you mentioned. I think SMEs are the main driver for economies worldwide. I think they are also the future, despite the fact that many of them will not be fit, are not currently fit for the future, but I think this is why we're having this discussion today. And the term hybrid SME has evolved, especially with the growth in the startup scene. So I think everyone now who's launching a business think that they're launching a startup. Reality is that many of them are actually doing and modified versions of SMEs that already exist. So they are basically hybrid. I would say hybrid SMEs are traditional businesses that are technology enabled, that would make them fit for the future and would make them scalable. And potentially that could make them investable. So I think this is pretty much what a hybrid SME is.
And you brought up two or three of the very, very important differentiators between startups and SMEs. Now, startups are tech-based, tech-enabled companies that have high growth potential, and that's what makes them investable, and that's what makes it kind of very, I want to say not volatile. Volatile is the wrong word, but very agile. But also, they're they have many shapes and forms. SMEs are more on the traditional front. They could be the mom and pop shop. They could be service based. They could be product based. But their growth potential is not necessarily humongous. Most of them spend decades or even their lifetime just being one outlet, one service company, kind of providing just one product. And their investment does not really come from investors like we see with angel investors and VCs and stuff. They get more, they're on the bootstrapping, they're on the kind of putting back the revenues into the business to grow it, and or bank loans, the traditional funding and financing methods. And that's why what you're saying is really important, and why we wanted to have this discussion is how do we bring some of the elements that support the growth and the scalability of startups into the SME world or into the SME business models. I think it's more on the infrastructure part.
Yeah. I think one of the main characteristics that you can look, so you mentioned the word growth, and I think this is key to differentiate between how an SME grows and how, or a hybrid SME potentially grows, or a startup. So if you're looking at the startup, there is the very famous hockey stick. So when investors look at startups, they look at their projections, their financial projections, they look at that hockey stick formula, and they would expect their investment to be returned upon basically based on that hockey stick growth. So it's a very growth-driven mentality. It's a very agile. There is a bit of risk there, as you mentioned, absolutely, 100%. This is why it's called venture capitalism that goes in there. So there is venturing in it. However, when you look at the SMEs, when you look at the growth, I think this is one of the key things. When you start looking at even the hybrid SMEs, they wouldn't have that hockey stick. They would have something more of a steady, linear trajectory of growth. So that would be basically, these have been in the market for a while. They have the historical revenues, they have everything, and they are now trying to unlock the next phase. But unlocking the next phase wouldn't be with a hockey stick. So that would be the main differentiator. And actually, it's one of the key things that even founders today, when they are founding something brand new, when they do their financial projection, if they start looking at their financial projection, they see that linear projection going in. So probably they're doing a hybrid SME, probably.
Can we say that there is any company right now that is not technology enabled that would have any chance of surviving in the next few years?
It's an excellent question. I mean, I don't think so. I've said that before, and I keep repeating this and whenever I can. Every company in the next decade, every company is going to be a tech company, just a different industry.
Yeah,
I think this is not a question. It's no longer a question of whether we're not or should not companies embrace or adopt technology. It's a matter of the how, the when. When do we start? So companies that haven't done so, they've missed the whole digital transformation era, and they are now that started over 10 years ago already.
Yeah.
So digital transformation has been there. We are now unlocking AI transformation. So a lot of catch up has to be done.
And you know what? Because we keep looking at the lessons learned from the pandemic and the lockdown and everything that has happened. And a lot of the companies that didn't survive are those that had no technological footprint. They had no channels to communicate with their clients. They had no ways to deliver services or products through, using tech solutions. And as you were saying, I don't think it's an option anymore. It's not a luxury. It's a must-have. It's not a nice to have. It's simply a must-have.
Absolutely. I think the pandemic was basically a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It depends on how many would answer to that call. So, and I don't think many people realize that yet.
But the problem is, Sherif, that because we're talking about SMEs, we're talking about a lot of companies that are in the very traditional segments. Let's say real estate, food and beverage. Even food and beverage has been revolutionized, but just assuming it's a restaurant or a coffee shop or something like that. Construction industry, things related to infrastructure, like why would I use technology other than they would be using it in production facilities and in a kind of where they're doing their stuff, when they're conducting their business. But that's not being tech enabled. That's not the way we are looking at a hybrid SME.
Yeah, I think some industries are more agile than others. So some are conservative by background. So if you're looking at construction, which it's already trying to pick up, construction is a very traditional industry. Where I come, like many years ago, over a decade ago, I used to be in oil and gas, and that's another extremely traditional, conventional business. When you look at the other things, like you mentioned, the food and beverage, for example. So we are now seeing cloud kitchens. We are now seeing a lot of investments in the last mile and making the consumer experience better and things like that. Yeah. So we are now seeing, and that the technology is making something like not having your own kitchen and operating out of a cloud kitchen feasible. You can launch a business with much less capital than what you needed to 10 years ago to launch a food and beverage brand. So technology is definitely there already, changing some of the businesses, turning them into hybrid SMEs. And you can think, I've been there before. So I was in an interim management role where the business is an extremely traditional business. However, in like putting the right technology in and putting the right technology strategy has unlocked that business to a whole new level. It was a game changer. So it could be done if you know exactly what you're good at and how technology can help you. And that's the key thing. What is the right use case to change the business into a hybrid SME?
And that's something very, very, very important that you touched on. And it is the potential that could be kind of in the shadows that you wouldn't have seen hadn't you embraced some technology and looked at different ways of delivering the service or the product or creating it even to start with. Some of the things like, when we were talking about internationalizing SMEs, one of the reasons you could be internationalizing or crossing borders would be to tap into new talent pools. And now the concept of remote work and kind of, working from home and finding your teams and having remote teams, hybrid teams from around the world, that would not have existed hadn't the SME started looking at how can I tap into the best talent from around the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that the key word here is hybrid. Everything is becoming hybrid. Work is becoming hybrid. People do now prefer to work hybrid. And I think hybrid is a transition. So hybrid is the word, the best fit a transition phase. So an SME that's now a hybrid SME or embraces being a hybrid SME is going to be fit for the future. So in 10 years' time, it will no longer be a hybrid SME. It will be an SME of that era, already fit for the era that's in it. So hybrid is a transition, in my opinion.
And transitional kind of phase that's also a catalyst for what's to come. And since you dropped the AI bomb as well, since you dropped it earlier on, I have to go to AI and see how does AI fit into the future of SMEs? How could SMEs, because again, these are not tech-based companies. These are companies that are looking to use or capitalize on some of the tech solutions to be able to become hybrid SMEs. AI comes with a big promise and a big cloud of it's AI. How can AI be used by SMEs now?
I think this is a very important and much deeper question than I really like the question, Dr. Hanan. I think AI can be very, very broad, right? So I think this is what people hear, like AI. So what can I do with it, basically? Yeah. And it's much more than generative AI. It's much more than that. And I think one of the use cases, I would go back to MacBear, and one of the use cases that we are already implementing in MacBear is looking at the use of AI to accelerate some of the aspects of software development. We are already doing that. And the way this is working is freeing up our resources to do something that's more creative. So we're trying to look at every single task that our developers do and see what could be automated by AI. We're already doing that, and we're seeing the improvements. We hope in the next 4 years, 50% of our operational tasks will be run by AI. So that's for us as transitioning as a hybrid SMEs ourselves. So we are a product innovation company, and we thought we should be walking the talk. So rather than just advising our customers that you guys should embrace AI, should embrace technology, we should be doing that first. And that's what we're doing already.
But it is important, because what you said is ultimately how we can use AI now. If we're not on the development side, like we're not working for OpenAI, we're not on Google, we're not, working on that, then our job would be to see how to best optimize on the AI tools for efficiency and productivity within the SMEs.
Yeah. So if you look at that, I think we were discussing that as well on the panel, and it was very interesting. I think some of the people, when they hear AI, they get scared of. But I think if you look at what you just
Terminator right away, and no, we're not at Terminator phase yet. We will not be terminated.
Absolutely not. I don't think this is the case at all. I think as long as it's done in an ethical way, it should not be the case. So back to the points that you brought up. If you look at the use case of AI, so how can I be more efficient? How can I be more scalable? That these are the questions as an SME I would be asking myself. How can I be more efficient? Would it help me reduce costs? Would it help me scale up my operation, even with the cost base at like very different cost units? Would it help me generate new revenue streams that I haven't thought of with my current business model or operating model? So these are the 4 key questions that I would be asking myself. And I would assess, how can I be scalable? How can I be more efficient? How can I reduce the cost? How can I generate more money? And any SME that's not thinking of those will eventually hit the shelf life and will not be there. And if you want to be there, the answer is clear: tech, AI. Yeah.
And that's very important. Like, okay, so as a use case from my end, I'm, the Business Doctor is a boutique growth advisory firm, which means that I've got limited resources, limited, human capital, and limited time, of course, because I'm doing a lot of things, and I'm capitalizing on AI to reduce the time that I need to send out a proposal or to prepare a contract. Well, not the legal part, but at least, the one that gets the initial commitment and stuff, or to be able to even manage my digital media or social media channels, because that saves me a lot of time. It learns, it knows the voice, it knows what we want to do, what the company's all about, and what's the direction for it. And that has really kind of tapped into more efficiency for me, and productivity and cost savings that have been enormous. And this is a very small use case.
Yeah, if you actually put that in monetary value, if you start looking at, like, I would hire a person to do this job, I would hire another person to do this job, even with the gig economy.
I had agencies, I had companies doing different things for me.
Even through the gig economy platforms. Even if you look at that, even like you think I can hire someone who can do this job for like X amount of dollars per hour. When you look at AI, it's always more efficient to do, faster, once it learns something, you don't need to keep switching between the resources. Once it learns something, it keeps improving, and that's really powerful.
That's
And
humongous. Yeah.
you're experiencing it yourself, so I wouldn't be preaching to the choir here.
Let's look at practicality. So let's give some practical steps for both, for SMEs that are, let's say, tech resistant. I was like, no, because I met someone and he was more on the medium to large enterprise. And this was like 10, 15 years ago. And we're like, we'll send you an email with a proposal and stuff. And he's like, no, he doesn't deal with emails. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, he's got a fax machine. I'm like, are you serious? That was like 10, 15. I'm hoping they have emails now, because he was, as the CEO and the owner, he was so resistant. So let's look at, actionable steps for SME owners who are tech resistant, from it's security breach, it's the overwhelm or whatever it is. And then let's look at 3 actionable steps for those that have embraced some tech, and how can they kind of really leverage further on them to really support themselves as a hybrid SME to prepare themselves for the future. So let's look at the tech averse first.
Yeah. So you're putting me here in a bit of a spot.
Let's brainstorm together. Let's brainstorm. We'll give it three brainstorming tips.
All right. So I mean, for the tech averse, it's usually seeing is believing.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at any technology adoption, you don't tackle the tech averse people first. So you need your early.
They're the late adopters. They're the ones at the end.
Extremely late adopters. They would be probably very late adopters, and they are the see it, believe it kind of people. Mm-hmm. So my advice, not to convince them. I wouldn't. Okay. So
it's too difficult. A kind of a battle with them. That's just going to be a waste of time. You think?
It is. Let's be honest. I think if you look at companies like Tesla, when they were doing the EVs, you still have people today who are still wondering whether EV are the right choice or not. Some say it is, some say it's not. It's been already years and years. But those early adopters, those early believers wouldn't be, if you try to sell the first 100 Teslas to those who think that EV wouldn't work, it's a waste of time. You just need your early believers. So I think this is how you should tackle the problem. So
do you think that tech averse people or SME owners who are tech averse, as you were saying, like, see it, believe it. If they see it, they believe it. If someone within the organization, I'm looking at someone, of course, with a leadership position, if they bring in a consultant, an advisor, or someone who can showcase to them the before and after, if you use no tech, this is your reach, your market size, your size, kind of your portion of the pie. And if you use some tech and nothing too advanced that you're going to be kind of revolutionizing their business and how they do it. But if you utilize 1, 2, 3 tools, then this is what you will get out of it. Do you think they will even be open to receiving that kind of input?
So I think the question, I would be asking myself one question: did they bring that person to see the potential? So that's, or was it that person?
Someone brought someone from the company with some influence decided to kind of intervene.
I think this could have a chance of working. I wouldn't put it past the 50% chance, because it depends on the influence of the person on the other executive. So it's a bit tricky. And I think the problem with these risk-averse people is that they come in late to the tech adoption in general. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it's cheaper to come late, and that's a win in itself. So that's, for some people, is a win. Yeah. However, the question here is not about buying something. It's more about actually adopting faster to market opportunities.
Yeah.
And that thing can be a make it or break it decision sometimes for a business. And this is where I see the risk aversion as a risk to the business itself, rather
That's
than being a risk on accepting the technology. The technology will be there. The question whether is your business going to be there?
Yeah, that's very important because you are, as you said, it's a risk. I think being tech averse right now is no longer just about you, but it's about the survivability and profitability of your business.
It's about seizing the market opportunity. So there are opportunities now that are being opened to companies that are more agile and more tech savvy and things like that. So, like you mentioned, internationalization of the business, having that kind of access to remote workers and things like that. This has never been easier than before.
Yeah.
If you're still the kind of mentality that I want to see my workers every day, I need to go to the office, I need to see them every day working and clocking in 9 o'clock, clocking out at 5, you wouldn't internationalize using that opportunity, would you?
Yeah, that's true. No, you will have to physically be, which was the traditional method, is you physically go, you make the visits, you set up the interviews, and you go and see the office, and it's a huge cost and it's a huge investment of time and resources and everything
Absolutely.
else. And now it's just not viable anymore. It doesn't make it business savvy to still be doing that.
100%.
Okay, so we have a couple of minutes left, and let's talk to those who already do embrace technology. What would be some tips we can give them, or some advice to be able to step up into, kind of, as you were saying, transition into being able to survive and be valid in 5 or 10 years down the line?
So I would go back to the 4 questions. Look at where you want to be more efficient. So look inside out. Don't look at the technology and see what fits.
Okay.
I wouldn't do that. I would
Yeah.
look inside out. I would see, first of all, what is holding me back as a business? Where do I want to save up money? What kind of talent am I not able to attract that could potentially change how I operate? So I would look inside. I would look at those opportunities, low-hanging fruits,
Yeah.
I would say, that are like about efficiency, unlocking a bottleneck, making something that works better, make me more scalable, something that's a bottleneck at the moment. And I would try to see if there is something out there that can unlock this for me. And that would be the see it, believe it use case. So rather than trying to shop out for technologies and see what fits, look inside, see what.
Take it the way around. Yep.
Yeah.
What do you need? And then it's much easier to shop, because there are a lot of solutions out there that could either be a good fit for you or could be tailored to be a good fit for you.
100%. And let's be honest, it can be overwhelming to look at the number of innovations and technologies that are being launched every day. So if I know potentially what I need, it would be much easier to find something that fits and fix it.
That's true. Well, I know we can keep going on for a couple of hours, but I'm going to respect your time. But before I leave you, before we wrap up, I should have asked you this question at the beginning of the show. And now I'm going to wrap up with it. So the show is called Empowered to Grow. And we are looking at being empowered to grow in business. How does this phrase resonate with you?
It definitely resonates with my core values. And honestly, empowerment, when I hear the word empowerment or I look at it, I look at what I do on day-to-day basis. So either I'm empowering my team, I'm empowering my customers, I'm empowering my shareholders, I'm empowering everyone every day. And basically, it's essential because we cannot do things on our own. We need people who are smarter, who are empowered to take decisions, empowered to grow in our life, so we can grow with them.
I love that. Thank you. Ramsey, my cat, empowers me to to stay on track, because he has to make an interference in every call, every meeting, every podcast that I do. So he empowers me to let go. So Sherif, thank you so much. As expected, this has been amazing. Thank you. And thank you for accepting my invite. It's always
Thank you,
great to
Dr.
talk.
Hanan. No, thank you, Dr. Hanan. It's been a pleasure, always a pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation, and honestly, this was really very enjoyable for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to hold that against you, and I'm going to ask you to come back again in the future with
Fine.
more conversations. Thank you, everyone who joined us today. I hope you are empowered to grow, and you're empowered to grow in your business. As always, I wish you love, joy, and abundance. And I hope that you'll join every Wednesday. That's where I'm hoping to have a live episode every Wednesday to be able to bring you more guests and more value. Until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Grow podcast. I'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, know that empowered you empowers others. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all.